Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
hmm
Today, we're going way back in time to explore some of the most incredible predators that ever lived.
And I'm excited to be here to help guide us through this journey.
We're not just talking about dinosaurs, though, right?
No, we're going much further back than that. We're talking about creatures from all sorts of eras. From the Cambrian explosion to the Permian extinction, we're going to uncover the apex predators that ruled their respective times.
Okay, so we've got a vast timeline to cover. Where do we even begin?
Well, to keep things organized, we'll be moving chronologically. We'll start in the Cambrian period, over 500 million years ago. Back then, most life was still in the oceans. And that's where we meet our first star predator, Anomalocaris.
Anomalocaris, that's a mouthful. What's so special about this creature?
Well, for one thing, it looked completely bizarre. Imagine a shrimp, but much bigger, with these massive, grasping appendages on its head. Oh, and 13 pairs of swimming limbs. And don't forget the large, disc-shaped mouth.
So like a supersized shrimp with a serious set of tools?
Exactly. And those tools were perfectly adapted for hunting. Anomalocaris was a fierce predator in a time when most creatures were just figuring out how to survive.
It's amazing to think about how these early predators evolved such sophisticated features. What gave Anomalocaris an edge over its prey?
Its most significant advantage was probably its eyesight. Anomalocaris had incredibly well-developed compound eyes, giving it a clear view of its surroundings.
So it could spot its prey from a distance. That's a game changer in the predator world.
Absolutely. And then those grasping appendages would snatch the prey and bring it towards that powerful mouth. It's a truly fascinating example of how early life forms developed specialized features for hunting and survival.
And to think this was all happening over 500 million years ago, it's mind-boggling.
It really is. And here's a fun fact. The name Anomalocaris actually means abnormal shrimp,
Abnormal shrimp. That's putting it mildly.
or more colorfully, shrimp on a horse.
Shrimp on a horse. I love it. So this shrimp on a horse was cruising the Cambrian seas, terrorizing its prey. What came after Anomalocaris in our prehistoric predator lineup?
Let's fast forward a few million years to the Ordovician period. Here we encounter Orthocone, a cephalopod with a long cone-shaped shell.
Okay, the cephalopod. So we're talking about the ancestors of squids and octopuses, right?
Exactly. But Orthocone was unlike anything we see today. These creatures could grow to enormous sizes, with some shells reaching up to 9 meters long.
9 meters. That's longer than a school bus.
It's truly incredible. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We have these massive shells, but fossilized soft tissues are incredibly rare, so we're left with a lot of mystery surrounding Orthocone's behavior.
So a giant enigmatic cephalopod. I'm intrigued. What are the leading theories about how Orthocone lived and hunted?
There's a lot of debate among paleontologists. Some believe it was a slow-moving but active predator using its tentacles to capture prey. Others think it was more of a bottom-dwelling ambusher waiting for unsuspecting creatures to wander too close.
It's like a prehistoric detective story, trying to piece together the clues from millions of years ago.
Exactly. The lack of well-preserved soft tissues makes it difficult to say for sure. But that's part of what makes paleontology so fascinating. Every fossil discovery is a piece of a giant puzzle, and sometimes those pieces raise more questions than they answer.
It's amazing how much we still don't know about prehistoric life.
Absolutely. And each new discovery has the potential to rewrite our understanding of the past.
So we've got this giant, mysterious orthocone lurking in the ancient oceans. Who comes next in our prehistoric predator parade?
Let's move on to the Silurian period, where we meet a truly formidable group, the Eurypterids.
Eurypterids, those are the ones that look like giant sea scorpions, right?
Exactly. But we're going to focus on a specific group within the Eurypterids called Pterygotus.
Okay, Kerrygotus. What made them stand out from the other sea scorpions?
Well, for starters, they were huge. Some species could reach lengths of over 2 meters, but their most terrifying feature was their claws.
Claws. I'm already getting chills.
These weren't just any claws, these were the most powerful weapons of their time. We're talking about claws perfectly designed for grasping, crushing, and tearing prey.
So they were like the ultimate prehistoric shellfish crackers.
Something like that. These claws allowed Pterygotus to terrorize early fish, even those with bony armor.
It's amazing how evolution produces such specialized features for hunting. So these super scorpions were the rulers of the Silurian seas. Who's up next in our deep dive?
Let's move on to the Devonian period, often called the Age of Fishes. And it's here that we encounter a true underwater behemoth, Dunkleosteus.
Dunkleosteus, that name sounds familiar. Wasn't that one of those armored fish?
You got it. Dunkleosteus was a massive armored fish that would have been a true nightmare to encounter in the ancient oceans.
Okay, a massive armored fish. I'm already picturing something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Ugh.
What made Dunkleosteus so formidable?
Well, imagine a fish with its head and neck encased in thick, bony armor, like a prehistoric tank. And instead of teeth, it had these self-sharpening bony plates that acted like giant shears.
So it was like a swimming guillotine. That's terrifying.
It gets even more terrifying when you consider its bite force. Dunkleosteus had one of the most powerful bites of any fish ever. It could slice through the shells of arthropods and mollusks like butter.
So nothing was safe from this armored behemoth. Did anything dare to challenge Dunkleosteus?
Well, there's evidence of cannibalism among Dunkleosteus, so it seems they weren't afraid to fight amongst themselves.
Whoa, cannibalism. That really paints a vivid picture of their dominance.
It really does. Dunkleosteus was a top predator, and its reign marked a significant moment in the history of life.
How so?
Well, Dunkleosteus was a placoderm, and placoderms were among the first jawed vertebrates. Their success paved the way for the evolution of all other jawed vertebrates, including us.
Wow, that's a pretty big legacy. So Dunkleosteus truly was the king of the Devonian seas. What comes after this reign of armored terror?
Now we're going to leave the water and take to the skies. We're headed to the late Carboniferous period to meet Meganeura, a giant dragonfly-like insect.
Wait, a giant dragonfly. How giant are we talking here?
Hold on to your hats. Meganeura had a wingspan of up to 70 centimeters.
70 centimeters, that's bigger than some birds. What did this giant bug feast on?
Meganeura was the largest flying insect ever known, and it ruled the skies. It preyed on other flying insects and probably even small vertebrates.
That's incredible. So we went from a shrimp on a horse to a giant flying dragonfly. It's amazing how evolution can lead to such dramatic changes in body size.
It really is. And Meganeura's success highlights the power of flight. This adaptation opened up a whole new dimension for insects, allowing them to become dominant predators in a new environment.
It's mind-boggling to think about the diversity of life on Earth, both past and present.
Absolutely. And our journey through prehistoric times is far from over. We've got many more incredible creatures to explore.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to our deep dive into prehistoric predators. We've seen some truly remarkable creatures so far, from the Cambrian shrimp on a horse to the giant, armored Dunkleosteus. But our journey through time isn't over yet.
I'm ready for more. Where are we headed next?
Let's dive into the Permian period, a time that witnessed the rise of some truly fascinating land predators.
The Permian. That's getting closer to the age of dinosaurs, right? What kind of predators were setting the stage for those giants?
Before the dinosaurs, another group ruled the land, the therapsids, and they were the ancestors of mammals. Some of these early therapsids evolved into some pretty impressive predators.
Okay, so we're talking about the ancestors of mammals. Were they already showing signs of the traits we see in mammals today?
Absolutely. One example is Behemoth, a relatively small predator from the early Permian. It was about the size of a dog.
A dog-sized predator. That seems pretty small compared to some of the giants we've seen already. Did it have any special adaptations to help it survive?
You bet. Behemoth had a key feature that gave it an edge: differentiated teeth.
Differentiated teeth. What does that mean?
It means it had different types of teeth for different purposes. Canines for piercing and shearing flesh, and molars for grinding. This allowed Behemoth to process food more efficiently, which was crucial for a predator its size.
So even back then, efficient eating was a key to survival. Were there any other features that helped Behemoth compete with the bigger guys?
Well, interestingly, Behemoth had a relatively large brain case for its size.
A big brain. So maybe it was more about brains than brawn for this little guy.
That's a possibility. A larger brain could have meant better hunting strategies or even more complex social interactions.
It's fascinating to think about how these early therapsids were already evolving some of the traits that would eventually lead to mammals. What happened to Behemoth? Did its lineage continue to evolve?
As we move into the Middle Permian, we see the rise of even more impressive therapsid predators. And one of the most fearsome was Gorgonops.
Gorgonops, that name sounds pretty intimidating.
It lived up to its name. This creature was the stuff of nightmares, reaching lengths of up to 3 meters. It had a massive head and, get this, saber-like teeth.
Saber teeth, like a saber-toothed cat. But this was way before the Ice Age, right?
Exactly. Gorgonops and its relatives were among the first animals to evolve saber teeth. These elongated canines were perfectly designed for piercing the thick hides of their prey.
It's incredible how evolution seems to converge on similar solutions across vast spans of time. Saber-teeth are a classic example of that.
Mm.
What did Gorgonops prey on?
Its menu included large herbivores, like the parasaurs. These were heavily armored reptiles, but even their defenses were no match for the saber-teeth of Gorgonops.
Wow, that's intense. So Gorgonops was at the top of the food chain in the middle, Permian. What happened to this lineage of saber-toothed predators? Did they rule the Permian world forever?
Unfortunately, no. Gorgonops, along with most of its relatives, met its end during the Permian-Triassic extinction event.
The Permian extinction, that's what they call the Great Dying, right?
That's the one. It was the most severe mass extinction in Earth's history. Over 90% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species went extinct.
It's hard to even imagine an event that catastrophic. What caused such a massive extinction?
Well, the exact causes are still debated, but it seems like it was a combination of factors. Massive volcanic eruptions, climate change, even asteroid impacts have all been proposed as contributing factors. It's a real-life detective story trying to piece together the clues from millions of years ago.
It's amazing how resilient life is, though, isn't it? Even after such a devastating event, evolution found a way. What happened to the predator landscape after the Permian extinction?
Well, life did find a way, and new predators emerged from the ashes, so to speak. Let's move into the late Permian, where we meet another fascinating group of therapsids, the Therocephalians.
Therocephalians, another new name to add to the list. What were they like?
One intriguing Therocephalian was Lycosuchus. It was a medium-sized predator about 1.5 meters long, and guess what? It also had saber-like teeth.
More saber teeth. It seems like those were all the rage in the Permian. Was Lycosuchus using its saber teeth in the same way as Gorgonops?
While they shared that distinctive feature, they likely had different hunting strategies. Lycosuchus was smaller than Gorgonops and probably targeted smaller prey.
So a smaller, more agile saber tooth. It's amazing how diversity can exist even within a group of predators that share such a specialized feature.
Absolutely. And Lycosuchus had another interesting adaptation, a relatively flexible spine. This suggests it was more agile and could move quickly, which would have been advantageous for hunting in diverse environments.
So a nimble saber tooth. What other predators were sharing the stage with Lycosuchus in the late Permian?
Well, we can't talk about late Permian predators without mentioning Titanophonius.
Titanophonius. Okay, that name definitely sounds like it belongs to a top predator.
And it was. Titanophonius was one of the largest predators of its time. It could reach lengths of up to 6 meters. And unlike the saber-toothed predators we've discussed, it had massive jaws filled with sharp, conical teeth.
So no saber teeth for this one. How did it take down its prey?
Titanophonius relied on brute strength. It was a powerful creature that could overpower even the largest herbivores of its time. Its fossils have been found in Russia, giving us a glimpse into the predator-prey dynamics of that ancient ecosystem.
It's mind-blowing to imagine these creatures roaming the earth millions of years ago. Each one with its own unique adaptations, shaping the ecosystems they inhabited.
It really is. And our exploration of prehistoric predators isn't over yet.
There's more. I can't wait to see what other incredible creatures await us. Welcome back to our deep dive. We've explored some incredible predators from the Cambrian oceans to the Permian landscapes, but you mentioned a group that often gets overshadowed by the dinosaurs.
We're going to talk about the crocodilomorphs.
Crocodilomorphs, I'm more familiar with crocodiles, those modern-day reptiles we see lounging in swamps.
Exactly. But their ancient relatives were far more diverse and, in some cases, a far more terrifying bunch.
So not just your average crocodile, then. How were they different?
Well, for one thing, they weren't all confined to water. Some were fully terrestrial. They lived and hunted on land.
Land-dwelling crocodile relatives. Okay, now that's a twist I wasn't expecting.
A great example is Prehistoric, a large carnivorous reptile from the late Triassic period.
The Triassic. So we're talking about the time when dinosaurs were first emerging.
That's right. And Prehistoric was a top predator in its ecosystem. It would have been a formidable competitor for the early dinosaurs.
So what did this land-loving crocodile relative look like?
Picture a powerful reptile, about 5 to 7 meters long, with a massive skull, sharp teeth, and long, powerful legs.
Wow, so it was built for speed and power. Did it look anything like a crocodile?
It had some similarities, but it also had features that made it distinct. It looked a bit like a cross between a crocodile and a dinosaur, actually.
A hybrid predator. That must have been a sight to see.
It certainly would have been. And it's a reminder that the Triassic was a time of incredible evolutionary experimentation. Dinosaurs weren't the only ones vying for dominance.
It's amazing to think about what the world might look like today if things had gone a bit differently in the evolutionary game. What happened to these land-dwelling crocodilomorphs? Did they survive into the Jurassic?
Many of them, including Postoceptus, went extinct at the end of the Triassic, but their aquatic relatives continued to thrive.
So back to the water for the crocodilomorphs.
Let's fast forward to the Jurassic period, the age of dinosaurs. Even among these giants, crocodilomorphs held their own.
Okay, so we've got dinosaurs ruling the land. What were the crocodilomorphs up to in the Jurassic seas?
One particularly impressive example is Machamosaurus, a marine crocodile that patrolled the oceans.
Machamosaurus. Okay, now that's a name that sounds like it belongs to a prehistoric predator.
And it does. Machamosaurus was one of the largest crocodilomorphs ever.
Larger than the modern saltwater crocodile.
Much larger. It could reach lengths of up to 9 meters. That's longer than a school bus. It had a massive, robust skull, short but powerful legs, and a tail built for propelling it through the water.
9 meters long? That's a serious predator. What was on the menu for a giant marine crocodile like Machamosaurus?
Pretty much anything it could catch. Fish, turtles, other marine reptiles, and possibly even dinosaurs that ventured too close to the water's edge. Its jaws and teeth were incredibly powerful, capable of crushing bone.
So a true apex predator of the Jurassic seas.
Absolutely. Machamosaurus is a fantastic example of how crocodilomorphs diversified and adapted to different environments.
It's amazing how adaptable they were. From land-dwelling hunters to giant marine predators, they really challenge our preconceived notions about what a crocodile can be.
And their story doesn't end there. They survived the extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Wow, they really are survivors. So they made it through the mass extinction? What happened to them after that?
Well, they continued to evolve and diversify, eventually giving rise to the crocodiles we know today.
It's incredible to think about the vastness of time and the incredible journey these creatures have been on. From those early land dwellers to the giants of the Jurassic seas and finally to the modern crocodiles. It's a story of survival, adaptation, and incredible diversity.
It really is. And it's a reminder that the story of life on Earth is full of surprises.
Well, I think it's safe to say our listeners have a whole new appreciation for prehistoric predators. We started with that bizarre shrimp on a horse in the Cambrian and ended up with the mighty Machamosaurus in the Jurassic. Who knew there were so many fascinating creatures lurking in the ancient past?
And who knows what other discoveries await us as we continue to explore the fossil record.
That's the beauty of paleontology, isn't it? There's always something new to learn.
Exactly. And that sense of discovery is what makes this field so exciting.
Well, a huge thank you to our expert for sharing this incredible journey with us. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of prehistoric predators. Until next time, keep exploring.